Armageddon. Oh, my goodness, Daniel. Releasing all this information, short arms, and what does it really mean?
Fun times is what it means, Dan. That's what it means. It means fun times for all because we've graduated from hand size to arm size. I think we're making progress as a society.
Okay, but where are we going after this?
Well, I'm not going to touch that one.
Just going to say, literally, not going to. But does it really matter about now, let's say a defensive lineman as opposed to an offensive lineman. Let be actually serious about this. Does it matter? How much?
Yeah, it does. And I didn't want to just have my opinion. So I reached out to two of the defensive coordinators that are of top 5 defenses in the league. So guys I respect that know what they're doing. And I said, what's the biggest issue with it? And they said, yeah, look, there are issues with it. And some of it is, you can't get off blocks. That's, you can just they're going to hold you. They're going to grab you. You can't use your length to escape and get off blocks. There's something to the ability to kind of finish. They look at as, finishing on some of these bigger quarterbacks that could come into play. But then my follow-up question was, well, obviously it's not a death sentence. So what do you need to have to overcome it? If it's not ideal, but what do you need to have? Because to me, I've always just felt like if you can play with leverage and power and strength, you can get away with it. And they said, no, absolutely. You got to beat blocks with your feet more with your hands, which sounds kind of simple, but it is. You got to be able to have like lower power to generate to get through guys, or you got to be able to win with your quickness. There's guys who maybe aren't as quick or as fast, but they're so good with their arms and so good with their hands, and they're able to get off blocks that way. There's just more ways to do it.
But more important for an offensive lineman to have longer arms or defensive lineman?
I would say offensive lineman. Okay. Yeah. I just think when you're an offensive lineman and guys can constantly get to your surface, I think that makes your job a lot harder. And that's I cut my teeth in the league watching Jonathan Ogden, and I'm like, you could have put a fresh coat of paint on the front of his jersey and there were no handprints because nobody could ever get to him.
I don't know if it came up last year or the year before with Will Campbell or, his arm length or lack thereof. Yeah. Was it a big deal, the fact that he was a top 5 pick?
Yeah, but I'd have to go back. To me, I think Parsons was 31 and a half. I think what was jarring is that when you get to 31 and you start getting below, Cassius Howell was below 31 inches. Like that's something we just don't see a lot of. But I was joking around with one of my former GM buddies, and we were just talking about this and laughing because he was telling a story about how they had an offensive lineman that they liked, but he didn't run a good 40 at the combine, and they didn't run a good 40 at the pro day. He said so they liked him, so they just kept sending different scouts out there to time him on a 40 until they eventually got one that they liked. See, we knew he's going to run. There's nothing wrong with this guy. We used to do it, hand size, arm length or hand size. And I was scouting on the West Coast for a period of time, and so if there was a quarterback, maybe his hands were a little undersized or what have you, and guys would get together hey guys, all of us have big grades on this player. We're all taking crap back at our home teams in these draft meetings. Whatever we got to do to get that thing stretched out when we measure this thing, let's do ourselves a favor here.
But is hand size important at this year's combine?
No, we've had no hand size debate, but the quarterbers haven't got here yet. So
okay.
We'll
why don't we focus on the wide receivers with their hands?
Well, it'll come up. Just if there's a correlation between the drops and then he's got small hands, but it's not nearly as prevalent as the quarterback discussion. But I always go back to this stuff with the way I look at Ruben Bain. So if I watch a player and I don't know any of his measurables, if I haven't documented in my notes and I've gone through 4 or 5 games and I've watched a bunch of tape on him and I don't have concerns about it, then I'm not going to be as worried about it if his measurements come in low. What would be concerning is Cassius Howell, maybe a little bit more so, where there's times with him where I see he can play a little bit small at times. When he gets into guys, he can't get off of them. I've seen Bain get engaged and be able to free himself, whereas Cassius Howell at that point in time, the down might be over. So if I have notes about it as a concern, not knowing measurables, and then the measurables come in and kind of confirm your notes, then I think it's valid.
The Ty Simpson love, I think, is going to be coming. We see this every draft where we focus on Fernando Mendoza, then we might start looking at negatives with Fernando Mendoza. Then we're looking for another quarterback who we can talk about. And Ty Simpson will probably get, it feels like, a little bit of love coming up. But compare the two. And with Ty Simpson at Alabama and of course, Mendoza.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good gap, in my
Okay.
opinion, how I see him. I just Mendoza, the hard thing about his evaluation, and I've talked about this a little bit, is that, people talk about the RPOs and how quick the ball, comes out a lot of the times. Well, spoiler alert, that's college football. That's how a lot of these guys are playing the game. You have to be able to cut through that. So the way I do it is, you take the whole season, you watch the games you're going to watch, but then I like to go back and look at these situations. 3rd and 7 plus, you're not RPO in a 3rd and 7 plus when everybody in the stadium knows you're throwing the football. The red zone where the space is condensed and you got to make more tight throws. I look at end game situations, and then I look in big stage games, big stage moments. And I'm like, Dan, he aces every single one of those tests. Like, he didn't throw a pick in the red zone. It's crazy numbers inside the red zone. You look at him when everybody in the stadium knows they're throwing the ball, and okay, sometimes it can be a little back shoulder heavy, and he gets criticized for that. I'm like, I don't know. I keep throwing it too. They can't cover those receivers on the outside when he pinpoints the ball on their back shoulder. But I've seen him fit balls in tight spaces. He's big. He can move. If you need him to get some free yards, he can take them. With Ty, I like Ty is someone who in my opinion, I think a lot of former quarterbacks are going to take to him because he's the son of a coach. Everything from a mechanical standpoint is beautiful and flawless, like great feet, nice delivery. He does not have a huge arm. There's times, and their offensive line was not a traditional Alabama offensive line. They didn't have the traditional benefits that you'd have in that program. So there was a lot of bodies around him, and I thought there were times he looked small. The ball was coming out of his hand. He looked like he was thrown out of a well. The ball would kind of take off on him. So I like him. He's my 40th player. I think he's a 2nd-round guy, and if somebody wants to take him in the back of the 1st round to get the extra year, I can get with that. I don't see him as a top half of the 1st round, top 15 type pick. And the other reason for that is I think every year you're going to have more Ty Simpsons coming along, whereas Fernando Mendoza, those guys are a little bit harder to find.
Talking to Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network analyst, and his podcast, Moving the Sticks, joining us from the Combine. Jeremiah Love, 3-down running back?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's got elite hands, like route running, hands, and all the dynamic stuff that comes along with him in the backfield. He's my 2nd overall player. He is a very, very talented dude. He's more than just somebody you turn around and put it in his stomach. Like, he can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I don't know, with the success of Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson and, some of these other hybrids there, of course, McCaffrey, I would, fell in love with him, watching him play this year. He was the one playmaker that I thought was different than any other player on the football field, every single game that he played in. And that's kind of hard to do, but I just felt, he's running it from 90 yards. Like, you're a threat inside your own 10-yard line. But I don't know, where's the landing spot for him?
Well, there's 2 conversations, right? I mean, we agree on his greatness and how special he is, and then he's my 2nd overall player. And then the next question that follows up is, okay, well, where does he go? And then you start looking at, we saw yesterday with some of those guys, the 2 Ohio State kids are absolute freaks. So you're looking at guys and you start playing the position priority game, you start looking at needs. But when I say, like, where could it start? I mean, I don't think the Jets would do it at 2. I think they're it feels definitely more like a front player, a defensive front player. I would say you could start the conversation at 3 with Arizona and Tennessee. I mean, that's where the conversation would start, but I still think that probably lends more to big guys, to offense and defensive linemen. At this point in time, I would say more so defensive linemen. And then the sweet spot to me is 7, 8, 9. When you look at Washington, New Orleans, Kansas City, I don't think that's a neighborhood he's not going to be able to get out of.
You imagine if he goes to Kansas City.
You don't know how many times I've got that from people in the league. They're like, we finally got these guys to not make the playoffs. Can we please not put Jeremiah Love there?
If I put Mendoza in the 2024 draft, how many quarterbacks go ahead of him?
So 3 for me. So I had it Caleb, Drake, Jaden, and then I would have him in there. And then you get into, the Nix, McCarthy, Penix. So that's where he would be. But those 3 guys, I mean, those guys were outstanding. And we've already seen that kind of bear itself out.
The Raiders draft strategy that, okay, you take Mendoza.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go back to last year, you're taking Genty, but you don't have a good offensive line. You got a really good tackle. And I just wonder, putting Mendoza in a situation like that, do you trust the Raiders? They can fortify that offensive line.
So here's what I would do, Dan, and maybe it's just symbolic and it'd be kind of funny, but I would want to make my point. If you're in the draft room, if you go inside a draft room, and now it's a lot more digital and they can display it from a digital display. But when I was doing it, it was cards. You had the cards up on the wall. So you had the whole left side of the huge wall. Left side is all the defensive players. The right side is all the offensive players. So when you come in there for your first meeting and maybe you got all your coaches in there for the first time after the season's over, you have the whole draft board up there. I would have erased the entire defensive side of the board, and I would say apologies to the defensive coaches. But this year we will just be drafting from this side of the board to help our young quarterback. So I know, and I think I might even heard this on your show. Like, it's a good conversation, but okay, are they equipped right now with where they are to take a quarterback? And what I would say is now I think there's proof of concept, and recently proof of concept. The Bears, I mean, they revamped pretty much their whole O-line in 1 year. Like, I know they didn't play as well as they would have liked in the Super Bowl, but New England swapped out 4 starters in 1 year and advanced all the way to the Super Bowl. I think with free agency, you're gonna have to overpay because you're the Raiders and where you are right now. You're gonna have to outbid some folks for the Tyler Linderbaums of the world. But I would go all in on trying to get 1 or 2 of those guys in free agency. Colton Miller comes back healthy. That's probably the hardest piece to find. And you got a good functional left tackle. And then now we go draft some interior guys or a right tackle as well throughout the draft. I think they can make it comfortable enough that Mendoza can survive.
I just don't want another Andrew Luck situation.
Yeah.
A David Carr situation.
I 100% agree with you there. But that's why I apologize to my coaches. And I've said this for the last few years on anybody that takes a quarterback high. You have to look to the future and just put yourself there and say, okay, at the end of this year, not all 7-10 records are the same. If we're 7-10 and my quarterback's playing well and we're losing 31-28, Dan, like your owner, your fan base is going to feel a lot better about that 7-10 team than you thumping your chest and saying, we got a top 5 defense. Don't know if this quarterback's any good. And he missed 4 games. So he got the crap kicked out of him, but we got a great defense. Like, those 2 records are the same, but they are not the same in terms of the hope and the direction of the team.
Who was the quarterback you loved, but he didn't pan out?
Oh gosh, I'm sure there's a long list. I will say, I didn't go into the school when Jamarcus Russell was coming out. I went and saw him play live, and I watched his tape. And I was a young scout at that point in time. That was probably the most talented guy that I ever saw. And it was like, okay, I don't know all the other stuff. The guys going to school get all the character and the work ethic, all that, but I'd never seen a guy throw a football like that. And I was like, I don't know how this doesn't work. That's insane with the ability that he had. And obviously we know how that worked out.
Why didn't it work out?
I think it was probably more the other stuff, just in terms of the focus. He got heavy, the work ethic. I think those were more issues. I'm telling you to this day, Dan, it looked like he was throwing a Nerf turbo. Like, when you went out there and watched him, it looked like he had that little tiny Nerf turbo that whistled when you threw it.
Would you take a chance on Kyler or Tua?
I think I would do Kyler on that one. I just think he's a more talented guy. And I've seen him, Tua's had some good moments for sure, and he's played well. And I think it's just very specific, the environment for Tua to be successful. I think Kyler could be a little more successful in some different circumstances.
See, the problem I have is he's more talented, but they're both kind of at the same place in their careers where, that if I'm going to take a chance on him, he does have this talent, but he didn't really showcase it the way he should have. Why am I going to be led to believe that he's going to now he's going to be Kyler Murray?
Well, and the other side of that, though, is you get Tua and all the head injuries.
Oh, yeah, I don't want either one of them. Yes. Yes, I'm just saying if I had to choose between those two.
I'm kind of factoring all of that stuff in together, but I'm just saying at least with Kyler, where maybe we don't have a perfect offensive line, like he can try and run around and get me out of some stuff with that. And he just gives me more opportunities. Whereas Tua, I think you got to have a very firm offensive line. You got to have a track team on the outside, and you have an RPO quick passing game system very tailored to him.
You can have Mac Jones or Malik Willis.
I think I'd want to test out Malik Willis.
Yeah.
I feel like I know where Mac is, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. Malik, I don't have certainty there, but I'd be excited to just to see what we can do.
I like him.
Yeah.
I just think he's going to get that 3-year, $100 million contract, and I would be excited if my team got Malik Willis, even if it's the Dolphins or I don't know if Minnesota. But I don't even know what do you hear at the combine on destinations for some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just you're walking in the halls and people are talking, and I don't know how much you read into this historically over the years, how much of it's accurate, but just a couple of things that you hear was, okay, that, Malik Willis was Arizona. You'd heard that kicked around as that he, that could make sense with Arizona. The one that heard was interesting was Geno going to Minnesota. Was one that people were talking about to give him the veteran with McCarthy to see where that goes. And then it just seemed to be like there would be a good market for Kirk Cousins was the other buzz that you hear, but not tied to any not tied to any specific team. But that was interesting.
But he's better than Michael Penix, but they moved on from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that's done. I mean, that's he's moving on.
Yeah, like 2 weeks, I think he's gone and made $100 million in 2 years.
That's good work if you get it.
Oh my God! And he's going to get another contract here.
Yeah. And when he's done with that, he's going to go right into TV and crush it on TV.
Yeah. Great to talk to you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you again, Daniel.
Thanks, buddy.
That's Daniel Jeremiah. His podcast is Moving the Sticks. He's the Chargers radio color commentator, former NFL scout, and working for NFL Network.